Um, what if the lowest point of your life isn't like a dramatic crash?
Right, because usually when we think about hitting rock bottom, we picture this loud, undeniable event.
Exactly. Losing a job, a devastating breakup, a sudden crisis. We think of it as something you can just point to on a calendar.
Yeah, a visible marker.
But, well, what if your absolute lowest point is completely silent? What if it's the quiet, invisible realization that your daily habits, the very things you love, rely on, and crave, mean you've been secretly worshiping the wrong things all day long?
Man, it's a terrifying thought. Because it deals with this massive spiritual blind spot.
Yeah,
A visible crash is almost easier to process because it forces immediate reckoning.
yeah.
But a silent drift, that's insidious. You don't even realize you've shifted your ultimate allegiance until you're, like, miles away from where you started.
Totally. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a profoundly challenging concept today, the reality of an Isla or an object of worship, but we're looking at it strictly through a modern Gen Z lens.
Yes, this is based on a really fascinating text titled The Lowest Point of a Gen Z.
Right. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack what worship actually looks like in the 21st century. We're moving past just the physical rituals to examine where our true love, dependence, and submission actually live.
Which is such a necessary conversation.
It really is. So I want you, the listener, to ask yourself right now, what is your lowest point? Is it a bad day at work? Or is it the realization that your daily habits might be secretly worshiping the wrong things entirely? Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
To understand this modern Gen Z struggle, we first have to confront what the text calls the 23-hour gap.
Yes, the 23-hour gap. It's arguably the core tension of modern faith.
How so?
Well, the source asks us to look at the reality of salat, our prayer. During those specific moments of prayer, you are actively acknowledging Allah. You're in a designated state of submission.
Right, you're focused.
Exactly. But the text asks this really piercing question. What is the state of your heart for the other 23 hours of the day?
Oof, yeah, that hits hard. It actually makes me think of a smartphone constantly searching for a Wi-Fi signal.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Like when you're in Solid, you are securely connected to the main router. You're good.
Yeah.
But the second you step off the prayer mat, if your heart isn't anchored, it's like that phone desperately pinging every insecure temporary network it passes.
Yes. Social media validation, trending topics, celebrity gossip.
Exactly. And doing that violently drains the battery.
It really does. That mechanism perfectly captures the vulnerability the text is pointing at. And it grounds this in Quran chapter 51, verse 56, which states that humans and jinn were created solely for ibad.
Meaning solely for worship.
Right. And the implication isn't that you must be physically bowed in prayer around the clock. That's not the point.
Because that's literally impossible.
Exactly. It means your baseline operating system, your choices, your reliance, your attachments should all be in a continuous state of recognition of the divine.
But, the text brings up some historical context from early Mecca that completely flips how we usually think about this recognition.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
Right, because we tend to assume the people of Mecca were entirely godless before Islam arrived. Like, they had no concept of a creator.
Right, that's the common assumption.
But the author notes, there were already people walking around named Abdullah, meaning servant of Allah, long before the prophet's message even began.
It completely shifts the paradigm. The concept of Allah as the ultimate creator was actually largely accepted by the society at the time.
Wait, really? So acknowledging a creator wasn't controversial?
Not at all. Believing in a supreme creator wasn't the controversial part of the message.
That is wild. Because if acknowledging a creator was already normal, then the friction wasn't about God's existence. The massive societal pushback must have been about exclusivity. It's like, acknowledging a CEO exists versus actually following the CEO's strict rules every single second of your day. It's one thing to say, yes, a supreme creator exists up there somewhere. It's an entirely different universe to say, therefore, I must drop every other system I rely on for my security.
You've hit the exact nerve of the controversy there.
Yeah.
The societal earthquake wasn't the word Allah, it was the declaration of La ilaha illallah.
That there is no God worthy of worship except Allah.
Exactly. That there is no deity, no Ilah worthy of worship except him. Linguistically, an Ilah isn't just a statue you bow to.
Right.
It's the ultimate source of your peace. It is the thing your heart runs to when it feels empty or threatened. The prophet was asking them to take all their reliance, all their hopes, and all their fears and redirect them entirely away from their tangible worldly systems.
And those tangible systems weren't just like spiritual comfort blankets, they were the entire economic engine of the city.
Oh, 100%.
The text talks about the stone idols of Lada and Uzzah. To the Quraysh, these weren't just religious symbols, they were the anchor of a massive, lucrative tourism industry.
Yeah, consider the infrastructure of ancient Mecca. It was a pilgrimage hub long before Islam.
Right, people were traveling from all over.
Exactly, from all over the Arabian Peninsula just to visit these specific idols. So when the message of La ilaha illallah arrived, giving up Lata and Uzzah meant shutting down their primary source of income.
Wow.
It meant abandoning the trends of their ancestors. They feared total economic and social collapse.
So it was a literal threat to their livelihood.
Yep.
But that fear of losing your income or losing your social standing, that's not just an ancient Arabian problem.
No, not at all.
That is a baseline human vulnerability. And the source material dives deep into this psychology. It argues that humans possess an inherently weak soul.
Yes.
And because the soul is weak, it naturally wants to cling to things it can physically see and control.
Right. When you feel vulnerable, trusting an unseen God as the sole provider of your riziki, your sustenance, it requires a monumental cognitive and spiritual leap.
It's terrifying for a lot of people.
Absolutely. A weak soul actively resists that leap. It wants immediate ROI. It wants to touch the idol that supposedly brings the rain or, see the ledger that tracks the wealth.
So the early Arabs clung to literal stone and ancestral traditions because it gave them a measurable, albeit false, sense of security.
Exactly. It was a false sense of control over their destiny.
Okay, so listener, let me ask you a challenging question based on this text. Since we don't have literal stone idols or idol businesses today, what is our modern equivalent? What are the things binding us today that don't follow Siyariot or religious principles?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Because that psychological need to hold on to something tangible didn't just evaporate when those stone statues fell.
Well, right. The human vulnerability hasn't changed at all.
Not one bit. The idols haven't disappeared. They've just shape-shifted. And this is where the text trades the concept of ancient ancestral trends for modern social media trends.
Okay, let's get into this. Because the author draws a direct, uncomfortable line from Lada and Uzzah to modern pop culture.
Yeah, and we even use the same terminology. We literally call them idols.
Pop idol?
K-pop idols.
Wow, I didn't even put that together.
Right. Today's Barhala, or idols, aren't made of stone. They are in human form.
They are the celebrities we crave.
Yes, the influencers we miss when they don't post, and the entertainment we rely on to numb out our daily stress for peace.
And the devotion to these modern idols is intense. Like, the text lists some highly specific contradictions that show just how deep this goes.
Yeah, it really pulls no punches here.
It doesn't. We're talking about fans compromising their own dignity, obsessing over individuals, and singing lyrics that border on the literal worship of a human being.
And it goes even deeper into how it affects daily obligations. The text highlights a profound contradiction, where some fans will intentionally utilize Salat Quasar Jamak.
Wait, really? Explain that for anyone who might not know.
So Salat Quasar Jamak is the religious concession meant for significant travel or hardship, allowing you to shorten and combine your prayers.
Right.
But the text notes people are using this concession merely to ensure they don't miss a segment of a concert.
Oh my gosh. They are actively bending divine law to accommodate their devotion to a pop star.
Exactly.
They're pulling Quasar Jamak just to ensure they don't miss the encore.
It reveals a stark hierarchy of submission. When the requirements of Siyariot clash with the demands of being a dedicated fan, which one wins?
Clearly the fandom in that scenario.
Furthermore, the author points out that these trending concerts are heavy with Eidolot, the free mixing of men and women.
Right.
And they feature romantic, highly distracting music. These are settings designed to pull the heart away from any remembrance of God. Yet they are the exact places people flock to for peace and fulfillment.
Okay, I can hear someone listening to this right now thinking, but wait, isn't it just entertainment?
Oh, for sure.
Like, people have stressful lives. We work demanding jobs, we're overwhelmed with news. Going to a concert or obsessing over a band is just harmless fun. It's an escape. Where do we draw the line between having some harmless fun and accidentally elevating a pop star to the status of an Isla?
Well, the author actually anticipates that exact pushback.
Really?
Yeah, the text dives straight into the mental gymnastics we use to rationalize this behavior, and it's fascinating to observe the psychological compartmentalization at play here.
Yeah, because the justifications are so common, they feel almost automatic. The text notes that people will say, it's just for entertainment.
Right.
And before I say this next part, I just want to clearly state for the listener that we are strictly and impartially reporting the source material's observations here about how fans rationalize their behavior. We aren't endorsing or condemning any political entities mentioned.
Exactly. We're just conveying the ideas in the original text.
Yes. So the source observes that regarding how fans handle the problematic actions of the people they idolize, they will say things like, well, they are non-believers anyway. Let them support LGBT causes. Let them support Israel. I'm just here for the music, and I still perform my daily prayers even if I go to the concert.
Notice the partition being built in that rationalization. The assumption is that you can neatly divide your heart.
Like putting things in separate boxes.
Exactly. You put your spiritual obligations in one box, saying, I still pray, and your entertainment in a completely separate sealed box.
Right.
The justification is that as long as the physical mechanics of the prayer are maintained, the media you consume, the environments you enter, and the people you financially elevate simply don't impact your spiritual core.
But the text is arguing that the heart is porous. It's not a compartmentalized hard drive.
No, it's not.
You can't expose your soul to environments that blatantly contradict your core beliefs and expect it to remain entirely unaffected just because you verbally labeled it entertainment.
Precisely. The author synthesizes this by stating a fundamental principle. A believer should not be content with things that Allah dislikes.
Wow, that's a high bar.
It is. Even entertainment must fall within divine boundaries. When a weak human soul attaches itself to weak human things, especially things that actively promote values contrary to its faith, it inevitably degrades its own spiritual state.
Because you are trading the ultimate source of sustenance, the one truly worthy of love, for something that is entirely temporary and ultimately powerless.
It brings us right back to the 23-hour gap.
Yeah.
People will trade their spiritual integrity for concert tickets and trending validation, rationalizing that the 1 hour of prayer covers the rest. But the text insists the state of the heart during those other 23 hours is the true barometer of what you actually worship.
Okay, so if a listener is tracking with us and thinking, maybe my algorithm or my statements or the things I prioritize over my religious obligations are revealing some uncomfortable truths.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. So how does the text suggest we actually course correct? Because recognizing you're spiritually drifting is overwhelming. How do we wake up without just falling into despair?
The author provides a very specific intervention, and they anchor the solution in a profound verse from Surah Al-Hadid, chapter 57, verse 16.
Okay, what does it say?
The translation reads, "Has the time not come for those who have believed that their hearts should become humbly submissive at the remembrance of Allah?"
Has the time not come? Man, the psychology of that phrasing is incredible.
It really is.
It doesn't scream at you. It doesn't condemn you as a hypocrite. It asks this gentle yet piercing question.
Yes.
It's like a close friend pulling you aside and saying, hey, haven't you been running on this treadmill long enough? Aren't you exhausted from chasing these algorithms and trends?
That's exactly the tone. It acts as an intervention rather than a condemnation. It acknowledges that a state of distraction happens, but warns that it cannot become your permanent residence.
Because there are consequences.
Huge consequences. The verse continues with a stern caution. It warns the believers not to become like previous nations who received Scripture. But as time stretched on, their hearts hardened, leading many to become phasic or disobedient.
The hardening of the heart, that is the ultimate consequence of those rationalizations we just talked about.
Yes, the compartmentalized.
Right. Every time you say it's just entertainment and you ignore that initial friction in your conscience, a microscopic layer of callus builds up over your spiritual sensibilities.
That's a great way to visualize it.
And you do it enough times, and eventually environments that should feel spiritually suffocating feel completely normal.
And a hardened heart is one that no longer feels the magnetic pull of the divine. It becomes entirely consumed by the material, the superficial, the tangible.
Which is exactly what the weak soul wanted in the first place.
Exactly. This is why the author identifies 3 specific goals, or the hadaf, for the Gen Z reader engaging with this text.
Let's break those down. What is the emotional shift the author is actually trying to engineer here?
First, to make the reader acutely feel that they haven't worshipped enough.
Oh, interesting.
And this isn't meant to induce paralyzing guilt, you know. It's to foster a realistic recognition of the vastness of what the Creator provides versus the fragmented attention we give back.
That makes sense.
Second, to cultivate a deep, persistent dissatisfaction with worshiping or relying on anything other than Allah.
So to make you truly feel the inadequacy of the open Wi-Fi networks, to go back to our analogy,
Yes.
to make you realize that the dopamine hit from social media or the engineered euphoria of a concert is a profoundly shallow substitute for actual peace.
Spot on. And the third goal is the culmination of the first two, to inspire a willing, loving submission.
Not just physical obedience.
Right. The author wants to move the reader beyond the mere physical mechanics, realizing that true worship isn't just checking the solid box so you can go back to your idols guilt-free.
Right. Checking the box for 1 hour and doing whatever for the other 23.
Exactly. True worship is serving with love, making the Creator the actual focal point of your joy and security. The call to action here is to return to the Quran to actively soften that hardened heart.
Because the Quran is the definitive countersignal to the 23 hours of noise. When you are relentlessly bombarded by trends telling you what to consume, who to stan, and what your values should be, you need an unchanging baseline to cut through that static.
It provides the ultimate diagnostic tool for the heart. It answers the question of how to navigate a world engineered to create modern idols without losing your core spiritual anchor.
Wow. We started this deep dive by redefining what it means to hit your lowest point. We've tracked how the concept of an Isla evolved from the economic fears surrounding the ancient stone statues of Lata and Uzza, right up to the modern rationalizations we use to justify concert tickets and celebrity worship.
And we've seen that the underlying human vulnerability hasn't changed a bit. We traded stone for flesh and ancestral traditions for digital algorithms.
We really did.
The core tension remains balancing the relentless magnetic pull of societal trends against the unchanging anchor of Shariat.
It is a constant battle against our own cognitive dissonance. We tell ourselves we can cleanly separate our entertainment from our core beliefs, but the source makes it undeniable. Whatever you feed your heart, whatever you consistently rely on for your peace and escape, inevitably becomes the master of your attention.
Which makes the question from Surah Al-Hadid so vital to revisit. Has the time not come?
Yeah.
It's an invitation to audit your own dependencies before the callous becomes permanent. It's the call to elevate your existence from mechanical habits to an act of profound, loving reliance.
Beautifully said. Which brings us to a final thought for you to mull over today. We've established that a modern Ayla isn't a literal statue in your living room. It is the ultimate focus of your craving, your time, and your emotional reliance. So imagine for a second that you pulled out your phone right now and opened your screen time data. Look at the apps you instinctively open the moment you wake up. Look at where your hours vanish throughout the week. Look at the transactions in your bank app.
That's a scary thought for a lot of us.
Oh, definitely. If your digital footprint could somehow print out a literal ranked list of your true deities based strictly on where your daily attention, love, and resources flow, whose names would actually be at the top of that list?